and the changes occurring at the FBI. Since January 2025, how many FBI employees have retired, resigned, been fired, or otherwise separated from employment? I need a number.
We'll get you a number.
What is the number? You don't have it?
Not off the top of my head, and I want to get you the right number.
Would it surprise you to know that it's probably in the thousands, like 5,000?
I don't think that number's
Well,
accurate.
you don't know. Next question. How many special agents or analysts have left or been fired from the FBI since January 20th, 2025?
Say, we will get you the numbers, and anyone that retires is of their own volition, and anyone that is terminated at the FBI, as I've said before, is done so because they have failed to meet the standards and uphold their loyalty and oath to the Constitution.
Yeah, so you say. Next question. How many executive assistant directors, or special agents in charge have left or been fired from the FBI since January 20th, 2025?
Again, people leaving on their own accord or terminations were done by the standards set at the FBI that have been carried out
With this question, I'm getting
consistently.
to the leadership of the FBI, and you don't have that answer. Next question. Which field office, division, or directorate has lost the most personnel since January 2025? And do you have the answer to that question?
Yeah, actually, every single field office in the country, including Hawaii, has received a plus-up of FBI agents because we're pushing them out to the field.
Okay, so you're telling me that no field office, division, or directorate has lost any personnel since January 20th, 2025? That's your answer?
In Hawaii, there's been a plus-up. In every single state that I'm looking at, we have allocated a plus-up for field offices across the country so that the FBI can continuing the historic achievements it's done in these last 7 months. When you're talking about firings, you're looking for a media hit and a fundraising clip, and I'm not going to give it to you.
It doesn't matter under what basis they left. I just want to know how many have left. And I think your testimony is nobody has left. Next question.
Nope, that's not my testimony. You asked it one time. I answered it one time. You didn't get the answer you wanted for your clip, so you keep asking it. And I told you I'd get you the numbers, but you can keep asking it.
Which field office, division, or directorate has gained the most personnel since January 2025? You noted that there have been plus-ups, so which offices have received these plus-ups?
The greatest allocation that I believe was given to California and then Florida.
Where were those offices?
California and Florida.
Thank you. Director Patel, you often refer to FBI agents as cops. All of us, Democrats and Republicans, support the police officers who keep our communities safe. But while our states, cities, counties, and towns all employ police officers to protect our communities, Congress has empowered and equipped the FBI to take on missions that local police cannot, especially taking on terrorists, hackers, and spies. I'd like to assess how well the FBI is able to handle its specialized missions under your leadership. The FBI is the nation's lead federal law enforcement agency for investigating and preventing acts of domestic and international terrorism. And yet the executive assistant directors in charge of the FBI's national security and intelligence branches were both forced out at the beginning of the year. Who replaced them in those positions?
Excellent qualified personnel to lead the mission of arresting 23,000 violent criminals this year alone. That's twice as many as before.
Who took the places of
I'm not going to give you any names so you can attack them.
Why not?
So you can attack them. I'm not doing that. The
You're not
people
gonna
sitting
give
in
me the
those seats
names
are
of-
extremely qualified to handle the job.
You're
We
not
would
gonna
not
give
have
me
the
the names
results.
of
We would,
personnel who
we would
should
not
be
have the
on your-
reduction
Right,
of
fine,
violence in the
moving
state
on.
of Hawaii if we did not allocate the
Earlier
resources we
this
did.
year, FBI counterterrorist special agents and investigators were reassigned to assist with immigration enforcement. Reportedly, these counterterrorism experts were returned to the jobs they trained for in late January after Iran threatened to retaliate for our strikes on their nuclear facilities. Have those experts remained in the jobs they trained for since that time? Yes or no?
FBI agents' primary responsibility is exactly what they are assigned to do. We always work with our
So since they
interagency part.
return to their
If
positions,
you're not
are
going to
they
let me
still in
answer,
those
why don't you
positions?
just do your soliloquy in the 4.5 minutes you have
I
left?
am not asking for a soliloquy. It's just a yes or no. Are those people who are returned to their jobs still on those jobs? Yes or no?
They never left.
What was that?
They never left their primary job. It is a surge of resources in law enforcement working with the interagency to combat violent crime and reduce
They were
violent
never,
crime in
okay, they were never
historic
reassigned to do immigration.
proportions.
That's your testimony. Okay, Director Patel, the FBI is also the lead federal agency for investigating cyber attacks and
Yes.
cyber intrusions, both by foreign nation states and by non-state hacker groups. Since President Trump's inauguration, the executive assistant director in charge of the criminal and cyber branch and the head of the FBI's cyber division have both left the FBI. What are the names of the people who replace them in those positions?
The cyber branch is one of the most impressive at the FBI. 409 arrests this year, 169 convictions. That's a 42% increase from the same time last year.
It's that
So
branch,
any
Mr.
suggestion that the FBI cyber division is not operating at full capacity and better than ever before, the leadership at the branch is implementing these changes necessary to attack the cyber and ransomware infrastructure operators
You know
from
why
Iran, China,
they're
and Russia.
important? I want to know who has those positions, since the people who originally were there.
Supremely
are no longer
qualified
there.
individuals have those positions.
are they?
Supremely qualified
Who
individuals.
are they? What are the names?
You're not
You
getting
don't
them.
know. Special agents who investigate cybercrime were also reassigned for immigration enforcement. Have those expert investigators returned to their duties? Yes or no?
All agents remained on their primary duties while surging to allocate resources for interagency operations to the Homeland Security task forces across this country.
So are you,
Am I what?
see, I'm not getting the yes or no answers. I get all this explanation, so there you go.
No, you get the work that
Are
the men
you
and women of the
planning
FBI are doing. And you don't want that.
additional personnel cuts to the cyber division in the future?
The only people that will be terminated at the FBI will be those that violate their oath of office or fail to meet the high standards at the FBI.
Director Patel, the FBI is meant to be the tip of the spear in combating terrorism against the United States from both foreign and domestic sources. It's also our lead agency in fighting the hackers who target our businesses and critical infrastructure. But instead of a specialized role fighting these kinds of terrorists, hackers, and spies, you have the FBI playing the role of local police and helping with immigration enforcement. I'm going to move on to my, you know, you've been asked some questions about changes to your hiring standard, and including college degrees and possibly the age. But, you know, one question I had is, that you are now requiring applicants to be able to do a certain kind of pull-ups, which a lot of women cannot because of physiological differences. Are you requiring these kinds of pull-ups?
We are requiring a physical program at BFTC at Quantico because FBI agents carrying guns in the field have to chase down bad guys and do really hard work. The physical fitness standards of those agents
So
are
are
being
you requiring
appropriately
these
assessed.
kinds of pull-ups?
We are requiring everybody to pass the 1811 standards at BFTC. If you want to chase down a bad guy
Excuse me,
and put
the
him in
reason I
handcuffs, you
ask-
better be able to do a pull-up.
The reason I ask is that there are concerns about whether or not being able to do these kinds of harsh pull-ups is really required of FBI agents.
Doing
Anyway,
one pull-up
Mr.
is not
Patel,
harsh,
I
and there are
am
always
gravely
medical
concerned.
exemptions to that.
I am gravely concerned by the state of the FBI under your control. And in fact, you are willing to take a cut on your agency of almost $500 million. So the FBI is losing dedicated employees, decades of expertise and specialization, leading to loss to early retirements, firings, and reassignments to immigration enforcement or conducting local police work. Thousands have already left. For as long as you remain as the head of the FBI, I fear the number of departures and summary firings will continue to grow. Mr. Patel, before the vote on your nomination of this committee, I noted that your most significant qualification, this is not just something that I noted, but others, your most significant
Ashley, what's this place going?
qualification was your 100% loyalty to President Trump. And I fear that that continues to be the motivating factor in your position as FBI director. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mayor, Mr. Chairman.
Director Patel, did you have
Yes.
anything you wanted to say now?
That is an entire falsehood. You can delete my 16 years of government service to multiple administrations all you want. The fact is that I was a public defender. I was a national security prosecutor. I was a House intelligence staffer. I was a deputy director of intelligence. I was a chief of staff to the Department of Defense and the Secretary of Defense. I led the counterterrorism missions for the White House. Those are just some of the jobs I held in my 16-year career. There was no loyalty then. There's no loyalty now to anything but the Constitution.
Senator,
If that made your blood boil, good. That's the point. You just watched the man in charge of the FBI get asked a basic accountability question and refuse to answer it. Not once. Repeatedly. And this is only the opening exchange. Here's the thing about hearings like this. They happen in real time, on the record, in front of the American people, and then they disappear. Buried in C-SPAN archives. Ignored by outlets more interested in the spin than the substance. That's exactly why this channel exists. We don't editorialize the footage. We show you the footage in context with the receipts. So you can see for yourself when a public official refuses to be accountable to the public that pays his salary. If you want more of this, more hearings, more contradictions caught live, more officials who can't answer a simple yes or no question, hit subscribe right now. This isn't a request, it's a necessity. Accountability journalism doesn't survive on good intentions. It survives on an audience that shows up. Hit like on this video before you do anything else. It costs you nothing, and it tells the algorithm that this content, the real footage, the real questions, the real dodges, deserves to be seen by more people than just us. And share this with one person today. Someone who still thinks this administration is being straight with the American public about what's happening inside the FBI. Send them this video. Let them watch Kash Patel refuse to answer for himself. We're just getting started. Stay with us. Let's sit with what just happened, because it's bigger than one testy exchange. Kash Patel was asked a direct question. Who replaced the executive assistant directors of the FBI's national security and intelligence branches after they were forced out? His answer wasn't, I don't recall, or let me get you that. His answer was that he wouldn't say, because, in his words, it would let Senator Hirono attack them. Think about what that actually means. The director of the FBI is telling a sitting United States senator in an oversight hearing that he will not disclose who holds two of the most powerful national security posts in the federal government, because scrutiny of that person might be politically inconvenient. That's not a defense of his staff. That's an admission he can't defend the appointment. This isn't happening in a vacuum either. At this same hearing, Ranking Member Dick Durbin put on the record his own concerns that Patel had installed political loyalists into key FBI positions and required internal loyalty tests, polygraphs, with some staff reportedly needing waivers after failing them. Whether or not you take Durbin's characterization at face value, it gives Patel's refusal to name his own leadership team a very specific shape. If the people in those chairs got there through a loyalty screen rather than a merit screen, silence about who they are isn't caution. It's cover. Then there's the flat contradiction on counterterrorism staffing. Reporting has indicated FBI counterterrorism agents and investigators were reassigned to immigration enforcement duties, and were reportedly returned to their trained roles only after Iran threatened retaliation over U.S. strikes on its nuclear facilities. Hirono asked Patel directly, yes or no, whether those agents had remained in their original jobs. His answer: they never left. That is not a clarification. That is a denial of a reassignment his own agency's conduct and public reporting already established happened. You cannot have it both ways. Either the counterterrorism experts were pulled to do immigration work, or they weren't. Patel tried to claim neither happened while simultaneously defending why it was necessary. This is the pattern to watch for as we go deeper into this hearing. Statistics offered in place of names, and denials offered in place of accountability. It's a shell game, and the next exchange shows he runs the exact same play on FBI's cyber division. Here's the verdict on what you just watched. Twice in the span of a few minutes, Kash Patel was asked to name the people running two of the FBI's most consequential missions: national security and intelligence, and cyber defense against hostile nation-states and hacker networks. Twice he refused, and twice he substituted a statistic for an answer. That is not oversight cooperation. That is a director who has decided that the American public, through their elected representatives, does not get to know who is actually in charge of protecting them from terrorism and cyber attacks. Zoom out further, and the picture gets worse, not better. Later in this same hearing, Hirono raised the FBI's roughly $500 million budget cut and the mission creep of trained federal agents being pulled into local immigration enforcement work. Congress specifically empowered the FBI to rise above, not duplicate. She also pressed Patel on a new physical fitness requirement built around pull-up standards, raising Title IX-style concerns about whether the bar was designed with physiological differences in mind. Patel's response: that doing one pull-up is not harsh, sidestepped the actual question of whether the standard itself was evaluated for disparate impact. And then came the line that ties this entire hearing together. Hirono's suggestion that Patel's most significant qualification for the job was his 100% loyalty to President Trump. Patel didn't sit quietly for that. He fired back with his own 16-year record. Public defender, national security prosecutor, House intelligence staffer, Deputy Director of National Intelligence, Chief of Staff to the Secretary of Defense, insisting there was no loyalty then, no loyalty now to anything but the Constitution. It's a forceful answer. It's also an answer that dodges the actual accusation. Not whether he has a distinguished resume, but whether the people he has since installed underneath him got there because they were the most qualified, or because they passed a loyalty screen he still won't put names to. That's the through line of this entire hearing. Not one gotcha. A pattern: headcounts he won't give, names he won't give, contradictions he won't own, and a director of the most powerful law enforcement agency in the country who has decided that accountability to Congress is optional when the answer might be inconvenient. The American people are entitled to know who is running their FBI. Kash Patel made clear on the record that he doesn't think that's your business.